What you doing peeking in them people's window?
It's another edition of For the Record Philadelphia. We are 4, not 5, just for this week. This is Brian Westbrook, Crystal Rich, Roxy Romeo. I'm Eitan Shander, down Jeff Mosher, who's got the flu.
Wow.
So the show rolls on.
You didn't get a flu shot?
I don't get flu shots.
They don't work.
I don't get flu shots.
I've got a flu shot once in my life, and I was beyond sick after
Maybe
that.
it's your immune system that doesn't work.
No, because I never got sick like that before.
You're putting
the first time.
You're putting the flu in your body with the flu shot.
Yeah,
Just saying.
no.
I
Did
don't
he
like
get the
it.
flu
You're
shot or
also
not?
putting government-controlled toxins in your body, too.
I'm
It's
just
the
saying.
easiest way to control minds.
get it.
They're listening too.
I'm just letting you know, bro. The only people that need a flu shot are babies and the elderly.
They are listening through this.
I didn't get
the
a flu
iPhone,
shot
the
this year.
Android.
I'm just letting you know. Hey, do you want to start? Should we start over? So the Philadelphia Eagles and Nick Foles have a match. Jeff Mosher's out with the flu. That's how long it took just to get with that. I don't know what your remedy is, but you probably got some different stuff out there. I don't know, non-flu shot stuff. But Nick Foles is now taking over the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah.
He has taken over the city. It is a national story by a mile. Everybody has talked about what happened last year because that's the sexy thing that Foles has taken back over. But this win in Chicago, coupled with the magic and the emotion that's going on right now in this city, I hate to make any type of comparison to what we've seen and just been through, but how can you not at least start to feel a little bit of that same energy?
I think a lot of people feel it. I think when the Eagles won enough games to get into the playoffs, people start saying, all right, now we're making that run. That same type of run. Nick Foles is playing well, reminds them of last year just a bit. I think one thing is holding them back. That in November we lost to the Saints, and now we have to go back to that same place where we got blown out at in play. I think everyone's rolling along, but they also have a view of the Saints in the distance, and they're like, all right, I don't want to go too far. And I saw the reaction.
Haven't they beat teams that they lost to already?
Not this year.
Not this year?
But they have beat, since that last Saints game, they have beat really good teams like the Rams. And my only rebuttal to that...
Texans.
Yeah, they beat the Texans. The only rebuttal to that is that when Nick Foles is in here and it's late in the season, postseason, from December to February, 2 straight seasons so far, he is undefeated. Yeah. From December to February, 2 straight seasons. So yes, we lost to the Saints, but there was a lot of reasoning for that too. Back in those games when it was early on in the season, well, late in the season, we abandoned the run.
Right.
I mean, Adams got 7 carries in that game. And that was our entire run game. At least in this game, Sproles got 13, Wendell Smallwood got 8. So against a good run defense.
Right.
So it's like you have to do that to keep the defense honest. But I think small lessons were learned since then. So yeah, we're like, we lost this team badly, but there's still that Nick Foles optimism in the postseason.
It's weird because I heard someone say, they beat us up so bad that we owe them. Like they ran the score up. Like they could have won by 30 points, but they didn't have to score those extra touchdowns to make it look ugly. And it looked ugly that night in New Orleans. And I think some of the guys on the team, you're talking about chip on the shoulder. We saw the underdog thing. We saw some of the robbers mask, things like that. Guys they're using anything they can just to get them going. And I think they're trying to use the little chip on the shoulder about getting blown out as something as motivation to get them going just a bit.
And Roxy, and there was something that I saw, which was the Eagles celebrating, I don't know who the rapper was, but it was to a Chicago-based rapper in the locker room.
Yeah,
yes.
Chief,
So like how
Chief
disrespectful
Keef.
is that? It's like if they would have won and they were partying
He's
to
not
Meek
really a
Mill,
rapper, though.
disrespectful.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Is he a rapper or no?
Yes, he's a rapper.
He's just an okay rapper.
He's not like a mainstream rapper that gets played all over the radio.
I
but
didn't
he is
know.
a rapper.
Come on.
But that's
It's a loose term nowadays.
Disrespectful though, no?
But that's like Chicago coming here and when they
Playing
won,
Meek, right?
they playing Meek.
Yeah.
Disrespectful.
Here's where
Is
your
that not
question,
disrespectful?
I think adds validity to it. Yes, pardon me. It is
So I would
beyond
say.
disrespectful.
There you go.
And I think that the Eagles are going to have this mentality going into New Orleans. Like, who would be the biggest one you can pull from Wayne? Isn't he from New Orleans?
Yeah, they got to play Wayne.
Right?
Yeah. He kind of
He's
claims
not as-
Miami now, but yeah.
He's a little bit too national, I feel like. They need to get, I mean, Meek Mill is getting pretty national too,
Well, Meek's coming back to the national thing.
Right.
Who would be the? Oh, this is great though. Let's think about this real quick, right?
I don't
Because
know
the
any down low New Orleans rappers.
This is beautiful. No, because
I
you
don't
bring this
either.
up organically. Somebody get on their phone and look. I don't know,
Right.
but like, isn't it like Ward? Isn't it like Fifth Ward or something down there, right?
I feel like there's a fifth
Ninth
ward
ward.
in every
Ninth
city.
Ward. Yeah, but isn't that? Or is that the St. Lunatics? Somebody's
That's
watching
St.
the show
Louis.
yelling at the screen
Oh,
right
see,
now.
you
These
know.
idiots.
Yeah.
It's St. Lunatic, Nelly Lunatics. But that would be the move, wouldn't it?
No, but St. Lunatics are from.
No. Forget those. Forget them. I'm saying the
just-
Eagles going into New Orleans.
Oh, yeah.
Beating the Saints. You would have to come out with like, and maybe it is something current. Like I guess but Chief Keef isn't the biggest one.
No, he's not.
He just happens to be from Chicago.
Or maybe there was some sort of like with Meek.
Right.
And the Eagles, maybe there's some sort of tie between the
Yeah.
Bears. I don't know, maybe
The
Chief
Saints.
Keef did the theme song or
Right,
something
right.
like that. So you would have to find whoever is connected with the Saints.
I don't know who it will be from NOLA. I have no idea. It might be like some jazz.
Is it Birdman
group.
from NOLA?
Well, it has
Is
to be.
That whole crew,
Yeah, Birdman,
crew,
all right.
Cash Money is from
Yeah,
It has to be-
there.
it has to be
That's
Lil
what I'm
Wayne.
saying,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So you play some Birdman, right?
That's probably what they're playing at
What does
practice all
Birdman
week.
have?
Nothing. He lost everything.
But this is a great way
He's probably
to
in the
troll.
locker room hanging on, asking for handouts.
Is it not though? It's a great way to troll if we win.
Absolutely. You just got to pick the right guy, the right rapper.
The first thing you got to do is win.
Okay,
That's before you can even
So-
start making your playlist.
that's fair.
You need to win.
So winning, let's start that with Nick Foles. Hello.
Right.
Now, Nick Foles, some people would argue it wasn't his strongest game.
Two interceptions.
Two
Two
interceptions.
interceptions.
First half was bad.
But the thing is, and those interceptions, they will get corrected in film study. He is going to watch them, and if he's a player who I think he is going to learn something from that. But what I love about him is I was thinking to myself watching this game, all right, it is time for Saint Nick. And when I say Saint Nick, that's the person who comes down someone's chimney and makes a miracle happen.
See?
That is Saint Nick. I'm just saying. And what,
So wait,
what did
is
he do?
Trayvon Chester or is Trayvon?
He's not part of the miracle.
Wait, hold
it's
on.
only St. Nick.
Is Trayvon not Rudolph?
Yeah.
Somebody's gonna right.
He might be Rudolph with that little getting that hand on that kick. But this is what I'm saying. He got in that late in the fourth or when he had that possession in the fourth, he got to Jeffrey for 15 yards.
Yep.
And then what was really impressive to me is when he got it to Goddard because that was his third look.
Right.
He looked left, nothing there. Looked right, nothing there. Finally found Goddard last second, got it to him for a 10-yard pickup. And that was a touchdown drive. From St. Nick, who orchestrated it. After that, 8 yards to Nelson Aguilar, 13 to Zach Ertz. My only gripe with that whole drive was the play calling that was not his fault when they ran the ball twice on the goal line. But besides that, orchestrated beautifully late in the game.
It's weird to me that now everybody loves Nick Foles. And Carson Wentz, the golden boy, and he was a golden boy for a long
What do
time.
you mean now?
Well, I mean,
I
it's
don't
just
dislike
hold on a
Carson just
second.
because we're
We
praising
had
Nick.
a conversation about the Eagles before, and I think myself and all non-football people have been backing Nick Foles from the very beginning. I never understood why.
based on what?
Based on the fact that he was in the Super Bowl. Based on the fact that it seems
it's-
like every time he plays, we win.
That's the argument. I'm not going against Carson Wentz because I believe he's the future.
Right.
But you cannot
not the now.
But you cannot deny the now of Nick Foles.
Nick has been money.
When did
He has
that
been
change
money.
for
He
you
has
though?
been.
You're saying now.
Well, I just kind of feel when he started this year, and I think to Roxy's point, everybody was on Nick Foles when he first started, right? Especially when he came back in. But I just feel like they forgot what happened with Nick at the first 2 games of the season. The first 2 games of the season, Nick just didn't look the same as he is now.
Sure, nobody did.
I think at the end of the
Neither
day,
did the offensive line.
Nobody
Yeah.
did. Don't be putting it on him.
So it's not
Homie.
Nick's fault. Okay.
No, hold on. It's not that it's Nick's fault, but it's like Roxy said, things change, right, throughout
Right.
the year. The offensive line has looked completely different. Like something has
They have.
clicked. So why wouldn't it stand to reason that if you're playing deep in the year and you got hot and things clicked, that at the start of the season, if things were a little off, you would still be able to fix
Well,
things?
my point is that everyone is saying it's Nick, it's Nick, it's Nick. Well, the offensive line has finally got healthy. That means Jason Peters looks like a different man. He's an old man. He's a little bit younger than me, and we're both old, but he's playing out of his mind right now. He had a great game against some of the best defensive linemen in the league this week. Lane Johnson didn't make the Pro Bowl. He's pissed off about that. He had a great game. All of those guys on the offensive line against the best defensive line in the league had an outstanding game.
But you know what? I have to, I'm a big Wentz guy, and I think that he's the future of our franchise. But I almost have to stick up for Foles here because I feel like the offensive line is it looks like a totally different line, like you're saying, but part of that is because Foles gets rid of the ball a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Carson's, if he doesn't see, like I told you, Foles had a third look pass to Goddard, who got a 10-yard pickup. But Foles, I'm not sure if he always has that third look pass more so than just run and scramble.
Wentz.
Wentz.
Right.
But usually Foles gets rid of the ball so much quicker. So that might actually help the O-line.
It's crazy. And I thought that, and I actually got checked on Twitter by that. It's not that big of a difference. There's something
in
about
the release.
Exactly.
In the Texans game, though, every touchdown he
I'm
threw
not disagreeing.
out the pocket more than 2 seconds.
But Carson was pressing a lot, and I think that's what led to bad throws. Is that you're hurt early on. The problem is that once something breaks down, that's where Nick Foles is able to, I think, get the ball out faster. So it's not, okay, who's getting the ball out faster in a 2 or 3 step drop or 4 step drop? Because that's similar.
I disagree with you.
I'm telling you, I did as well.
You're saying when it breaks down,
I'm
that
saying,
Foles gets it out faster?
I'm saying
because Carson can
is
scramble.
right.
Foles will just.
Carson is still holding on to the football, scrambling.
Right.
Nick Foles is getting rid of that because he can't scramble. So he's either going to throw the ball out of bounds or get hit and take a sack. My point of it is that by holding the ball faster once you're out of the pocket, you're not getting the ball out fast enough. So when it's just a designed drop back and throw the football, they're actually, and I didn't think so as well until I saw. I'm telling you, I saw the numbers. I'll have it.
See, I'm not going by the numbers. I'm just going by the eye test. But when the pocket breaks,
when the 1,000, 2,000, like we got to apply that.
When the pocket breaks down, then Carson Wentz, he scrambles, and when he makes a pass, he's Houdini. But then when Foles, if the pocket breaks down, he's more just so in trouble because he's not scrambling.
Here's
That's
the thing.
my point. He's getting the ball out faster.
For this
at that
season,
point.
Carson hasn't been as healthy, so his scrambles have looked totally different than they did last year. So, and he hasn't been as successful. The other thing for Nick is that he does a much better job of scanning the defense, understanding what's going on the defense pre-snap. Like before the ball is snapped, he has an idea of who he's going to throw the ball to, what type of defense they're going to play. And in my mind, that makes him way more successful throwing the ball down the field than Carson has ever been. I mean, there's just routes where Nick knows where he's going to throw the ball, and they connect on that because he's done a pre-snap read and done a much better job offensively, meaning he doesn't have to hold the ball as long as well.
Does that mean you think he's better than Wentz?
We're bringing it all back here.
I think that's a good question, though, because I think it's relevant because at some point the Eagles are going to have to say, let's say, for example, Nick goes down and wins this game this weekend. Then you're going to have to start asking the question, maybe he's not as gifted arm talent-wise, leg talent-wise, can't move around as much, but the guys around him play better with Nick Foles versus Carson Wentz. And how do you move into the offseason without having that conversation?
Okay.
See, you have to have this conversation. Go ahead.
Are you a Wentz fan?
No.
Oh.
It's not one or the other.
So how do you feel?
I feel like there is a variable that we just spent 8 minutes describing that never gets brought up in what Brian just laid out, which is we now have example of 2 straight years. That's a hell of a sample size in the NFL of 2 straight years of Nick Foles taking over a team that's hit full stride.
Yeah, and going undefeated from December to February.
Don't get me wrong. Like, that's not a knock on Nick Foles. That doesn't take away anything from Nick Foles. But it's like, all right, you're asking Nick Foles, or either one of them, right? But I'm saying, like, doesn't take anything away from Foles and what he's been doing. But, yeah, I get what you're saying, B, which is, we should be having this conversation about next year. But the biggest thing that always comes up, it's not about Wentz versus Foles. It's Foles takes over these teams that are in full stride. And for 2 straight years, the only reason why Wentz isn't out there is because he's hurt. That's a big variable that you even said it yourself. People look different from the start of the year to the end of the year.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's almost like not Carson versus Foles, but Carson versus being healthy. And if we can get a healthy Carson Wentz, I think it'll be a completely different story.
That's actually a good point because when you think about it, it's 2 years in a row, just like you mentioned, that maybe health should actually be factored into just a little bit more about Carson.
Yeah, it should be. It should be because you think about before he went down last season, he won 11 games for us.
Yeah.
He was
great.
he looked
MVP of the league.
phenomenal.
Absolutely MVP.
He looked phenomenal. But then you get this guy, and it almost reminds me of like a storyline between who's better, Michael Vick or Tom Brady. Tom Brady is not as mobile. He's not as athletic as a Michael Vick, but he has a better. He finds ways to win.
He wins way more, right.
He has a really good
right.
control of his offense. He has a pocket presence. You can even argue that I remember receivers saying about Michael Vick that his passes felt like bullets in their chest when they would
Right.
catch it.
He didn't have the touch.
You could even argue that Michael Vick had a stronger arm, yet Tom Brady is the better quarterback. So it can even go back to that argument. And it's hard to just put it on one thing when it comes to Foles. It's like he's a total package postseason player.
There's something, though, that I think we have to talk about, and this transitions from what happened this past week to where we're going in New Orleans, where for 2 straight weeks, things outside of Nick Foles and the Philadelphia Eagles, dare I use this pun, hands, have happened and worked in their favor. Now,
Right.
listen, it was a hell of an effort to get your fingertip on a football, but that's what it took. And before that, a guy who didn't even play in Minnesota, Kirk Cousins, right, had play here. Something is going on. There has to be, like you have to explain this, where you're walking into a locker room and you see somebody, and maybe that was you. Maybe people thought that way about you. I know you're modest to a point, but listen, you either experienced it, because I know damn well Nick Foles knows what it's like to walk into
Right.
that locker room, big Nick energy, right, like that. So there's something about this attachment that even the most alpha of alpha dogs will still look at somebody and be like, yo, that's the dude right there.
And when he has the ball in his hands, it doesn't matter what happens. He'll get it done. He'll find a way to win. And it's weird because for me, that guy, and I know a lot of people in Philadelphia never feel this way, never admit it, that guy was Donovan. Because when that guy was on the field, it didn't matter whether you had a running back, never really had any receivers except for T.O. and a couple other different guys. He always made it work. Broke ankle, still played. Hurt shoulder, still played. Torn ACL, still played. That's the type of dude he was. And so the confidence level, and it's weird because, and I think this happens to Carson just a bit. There are times where Don would just go out there and play, and he would just be so good that as a team, we would just watch him. And because we're watching him, we couldn't help him. And then you put somebody else in, and we're saying, no, the second string guy, we need to actually help him. He's not as good. And that's what's happening with Nick.
Right.
Guys
Jeff
are stepping
Garcia,
guys are
AJ,
stepping up their game.
Eddie the Detmers.
Right. Corey Devin, all those guys.
What you are trying to explain is the unexplainable, and that's because God is on Nick Foles' side. End of story.
that it?
I like that.
That's
that
the
it?
end of the story. What else?
It's God.
If you're an atheist, I apologize, but God likes.
There are
Nick
no more
Foles.
atheists in Philadelphia.
I mean,
Listen, I'm a Jew from New York. I'm
you know what
considering
I-
converting
you
at
know
this
what
point,
I-
all right? There's no
You know what I
lie.
tweeted out right before Cody was about to kick that field goal? I tweeted out, this is the Windy City, right? Prayers up. Guess what happened? Hicks got a hand on it, Trayvon.
Trayvon, yeah, Hunter.
Trayvon Hester.
Hester, yeah. What'd I say, Hunter?
maybe a little wind blew in the
Yeah.
middle, maybe it was a little mixture, but it worked out.
Oh, you didn't hear?
There is no other argument.
Why, it may have been
wait.
Doug trying to freeze the kicker.
Yeah,
that never worked.
Ice the kicker a little bit.
You didn't hear about Hester, though? He
She
asked
hasn't-
Foles to bless his hands ahead of time?
No, he didn't.
You didn't hear that?
No.
No, this
Are
is
you
just
serious?
a lot.
Hester went to the locker
This is
room ahead of time
alternative
and said,
facts.
listen, Nick, I'm a 7th-round pick. I don't even know if I'll be out there. Just help me out. And Foles looked
This
at
is a lie.
Foles looked at Hester's hands and said, you will be needed.
This is alternative facts right here.
What if Nick could do that though? Like, what if he did do
Wait,
that?
is there? You were about ready to believe it. If I could sell it better,
Yeah, I was like, well,
because of
maybe.
Nick,
but
not because of me.
honestly,
Right.
Going back to
'Cause Nick has
last
been that
season,
special, right.
I'm reading or have read Rob Motty's book from last season.
Faith on the Field, right?
Yes.
no,
No,
that's
Birds
his
That
show.
Pray.
Right.
Birds of Prey. Now
Sorry, Rob.
there were certain things that they would pray about. Like if someone got injured, they would pray, and then sooner or later they'd be back on the field making plays. But
Yes,
before we
yes.
get too deep into
No.
that
I just
talk-
need to ask a quick question about that. All right, because I noticed, and this is somebody who is not attached to my religion, probably like I should be, or I asked this out of ignorance, meaning the true definition, I don't know.
Right.
But I saw at the end of every game, they have a prayer circle, right? So
Yeah.
those who want to take part in a prayer will go in there. And I don't even mean to be funny. I'm
Were there
actually
Bears
asking.
players in there?
There was Cody Parkey in there. And I'm thinking
That
at
just
some,
got finished missing the kick.
I'm thinking at some point somebody be
Listen.
like, hey man, your guy can wait.
Listen, he
My
was
God.
praying.
I don't want to pray with you.
He was praying for his safety.
Right. Right. Yeah, to get home, exactly.
He was praying for his safety. God, give me traveling mercies as I get home.
Yeah.
Let no one stop my car.
Do you think there were other people on the Chicago side that were sending the same text, the same
100%.
tweet as you, praying like, just please let them make it?
Yeah, but God's on Nick Foles' side, so.
Oh, okay. They don't have
That's
Nick
what
Foles.
But, okay, so you brought up icing the kicker, right?
Yeah,
And then you had a really good point about icing the kicker that even I never really thought about.
I just don't understand how you can call a timeout in the middle of a play.
Because technically.
It was right before the play.
So you cannot call a timeout during
In
the
the
play?
middle,
Right.
no.
So they
it was right
time it.
before.
Yeah,
But see, the thing is with
Now.
icing kickers, though, it's so quick that you have to do it like on the dot because kicking is like it's a quick thing.
Yeah.
So if you don't call it right on the dot, it almost
So you want to
like
call
it's
it
in the middle.
right before they snap the ball, and so you really want them to snap it and for them to kick it, but not to be a play. It's just timeout, right? And so when he kicks it, hopefully he makes it, similar to what happened. He's confident, feels good about it. Or if he misses, even better. Now he has to worry. But either way, you're thinking about it. That's why you call icing the kicker. You're thinking about it, and then the next one, you're not as sure exactly which way to do it. I do it the same.
Yeah.
I do it a little bit more to the left or the right.
There are a couple of real quick. There are a couple of positions in sports where it doesn't matter how good your talent is. It's just all mental.
Right.
Like we've got kickers. Pardon me, closers in baseball.
You don't think kickers have to do with talent?
No, I think that
It's not as much talent.
I think that you can get listen, my point of it is that you can get a 46-year-old guy in Adam Vinatieri who is going to knock down a 48-yard kick in -3 degrees in New England, and you can get a 26-year-old who's got a body twice as good as his, that may be a leg twice as long, but the pressure, it's just more
I want to
pressure,
ice
right.
the kicker too and call that timeout. But to your point, it's an interesting point because if you don't call that timeout right as the ball is snapped, like right before, then it almost feels like last night, it almost felt like it interrupted the play, and that's the point.
I thought that's what happened.
Your timing as a coach.
That was the point, yeah.
I literally thought that something happened, and I think I texted you, and I was like, I didn't know what failing a snap meant, but I really thought it was in the middle of the play, and I'm like, how is this even legal?
Right,
But,
and that's all they did. I'm trying to think of a moment. Was it? I know Akers, and that was the year in which Andy was accused of throwing him under the bus.
Yeah.
In the
Akers,
playoffs.
I'll tell you this. David Akers, obviously, he's in the Philadelphia Eagles Hall of Fame.
He's
one of the
kicker,
guys that
big
played with me.
NASCAR guy. That's how I remember him.
I mean, he's a kicker. I mean, really, really good. Barely ever missed a kick. So we never really had any issues of him like missing kicks.
Right.
But do you remember the game? I think it was against San Diego, where we blocked the field goal at the end of the game, and we ended up running it back for a touchdown.
Ray Farmer?
No, I think it was Quentin Michael.
Okay.
That blocked it. So I think at this point we were losing, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you're losing by a point or whatever. They're about to kick the game-winning field goal. At that point, we get through, we block it. Similar to last night, we block it, but we scoop it up and then we go down and score, win the game.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was Matt Ware. Matt Ware is the one that blocked the actual field goal.
Okay.
Something like that. And it was just pretty cool to be able to win on that type of play
Right.
at the end of a game. Similar. I mean, this is a huge game.
Guys,
but
you
I
know
mean-
what I think is unfair, though? Cody is getting so much heat in Chicago. And I can understand from the casual fan's perspective, and this goes into...
That would be me.
Yeah, I understand from that
Well, you'd be
perspective.
pissed off.
You think it's his fault.
You
Yes.
have one job. But this is my thing.
Even though I got blocked.
The Eagles' first possession in the third quarter, that would have been a 3-and-out. But it led to a Goddard touchdown because of all the Bears' penalties. The first penalty was for 15 yards. The second penalty, Foles tried to get it out to Jordan Matthews,
Right.
pass interference, and we moved the ball to the spot of the foul. And that set up the touchdown. If it weren't for those players making game-changing penalties, we probably would not have got the touchdown there because it looked like it was going to be a 3-and-out. So while everyone wants to blame Cody, they should be spreading this blame around. But I understand, like, the emotion of it makes you want to look at the very last play and say, he should have made that.
Well, the best part about it is, as we move on, that it produced one of the best memes that I think we got. Now, listen, it's 2019. It's the first week, technically, in January. But that meme is up for meme of the year right now with the Sandra Bullock head on top of Parkey. And, yeah, we're going to get into that. We're going to get into R. Kelly as well.
This is not R. Kelly. This is Bird Box
No,
right
I know.
now.
That's why I
It
said we're
could
going to
be
get
R.
into
Kelly
that.
too, I
It
guess.
could.
Hey, listen. At this point, it wouldn't shock me if it was R. Kelly. But
Could go
you
both
had an
ways.
interesting question that kind of stems off of
Being petty?
Yes, being petty, because that really was the pettiest of petty. Now we love it here in Philadelphia
Because they're making fun of Cody
exactly.
Parkey,
But
right?
if it was done to us, we'd be like, "Hey, now hold on, that's
We'd be mad.
Well, they should make fun of him though. I mean,
absolutely.
he had one job to do.
So you
See,
agree?
exactly.
So you agree with her?
Yeah, I would be upset if I was on that team.
I would be
haven't-
upset, but I think the blame doesn't just start with him. You got to go back to those penalties in the third quarter because Eagles would not have scored that touchdown. But I understand why you would blame Cody.
All right. So what was the question?
Name one petty reason that you would not date somebody.
Ooh. Ooh. I feel like you have the best Tinder story, so let's
No,
start
no,
with
no.
you.
These are old stories, by the way. So we can't keep starting with
Oh,
me.
like 2018 old? That was
no, we gotta
that was
start
just a
with
couple
Roxy.
days
Yeah.
ago.
Why?
Yeah,
I
because-
asked the question. I go last.
Because we want to know about your
not how
dating
it
life.
works.
Tell us about your
You
dating
can't
world.
just keep throwing me out there.
Oh God, a petty reason I wouldn't date somebody. The pettiest reason is because they're too short.
Okay.
How tall are you?
You're a
I'm
heightist?
5'2". Yeah, I'm a heightist.
Okay.
Wait. But when you
what's-
say too short, if you're 5'2", is 5'3" or 5'4" too
Way
short?
too short.
Hold on.
Way too
So
short.
is it? Do they have to be taller than you with heels on?
Yes.
Because that's mostly girls'
Yes,
rules.
yes.
So say your heels are like 3 inches, you're
Well, how are you?
5'5".
How big are
My
you?
heels are not 3 inches. They're
6?
more
You
like
got a
5 or
little
6.
baby
Okay, so
heels.
you're 6. So you're 5'8" then.
I'm more like 5'9".
So you're 5'9" with heels on?
And 5'9" is like really, really cutting
Okay, so
it.
you able to
so
walk
your guy
around
has
in
to at
these
least be
6
6
inches?
Yes,
foot.
I am actually.
Is that
These
right?
heels sound
Wait,
ridiculous.
hold on a second. Hold on a second.
I dated a guy when I was
I
in
need proof of
Vegas,
this.
and I dated a guy when I was in Vegas. I went on 5 dates, and every single date, I made it a point to wear sneakers or sandals or something flat because if I went with heels, I would be taller than him. He was 5'7",
That
and
is-
he
You knew
lied
that.
to me about his height.
I feel like I was a
How
lot
many dates did you
pettier
go
when I
on?
was younger. I was
5.
million
Wait a
reasons.
second. Did you not hear this?
Yeah, she
lied
couldn't tell
about the height.
Because when I
You
met
should have
him,
been out
I
there.
was at the bar. Like, I was sitting at a bar. So he was sitting down, too.
You should have been out
so
of
we
there date one.
started talking, and we asked about height. And then when he stood up, I was like, oh,
Wait,
my
you asked
God.
about height while you were
Yes, 'cause we were
physically next to
sitting.
him?
Why
And
did
then-
you
and
why did
you
go-
forced him to lie to you. I mean, you literally forced him.
Wait, but I've never
You're not
asked a guy
5'7",
who I
are
was
you?
physically
That's-
sitting next to be like, yo, how tall are you?
Because
Right.
he was
You're
sitting
gonna
and I
find
couldn't
out in a
tell.
second.
But why did you continue to go on dates with a guy that you knew you couldn't wear heels if it bothered you?
Because you had that good conversation at first, and then you realized that you actually kind of liked him until you stood up.
But
see, that's
date
the
one.
hip-hop.
Listen, I tried.
She went on 4
I
more
know.
dates.
I tried to come out of my
Because she
petty
liked
self
them.
No,
and said to
it's the
myself,
most petty reason why
maybe
she wouldn't date.
I tried to come out of my petty self and say, okay, maybe I can look past his height. Maybe he's got this amazing, sparkling personality. So let me go out with him a couple times and see how it goes. And I couldn't get past the height. I just couldn't.
never
5
come
times
out of
was
your
it.
petty
That was
self.
Couldn't be
done.
anything but petty. That was it.
Five
That
times?
had to be
Pretty much.
petty.
That's a lot.
right.
Once we
Five
get
dates is a lot.
past,
That's
once
a
it's
lot.
like 5'9" plus, then the
it's-
pettiness goes away, and I could really not be petty.
I hate to like make y'all mad, but that is
Never
kind of like
find
a
a date.
standard girl
Yeah.
rule. Like
Are
a lot
you-
of girls.
are you kidding me?
A
No,
lot of
it is,
girls,
but you have to
lot
give
of
us a
guy-
different
lot
one
of
'cause she took it.
girls-
This is a terrible rule.
I'm
This
not-
is first of all,
I don't
for
mean
somebody
that.
that's 5'10", and on the
and
teetering
Crystal's
point.
tall. How tall are you?
Wait, that's
I'm
how they have you
5'7".
listed.
Yeah,
at
that's a
5'10".
teetering point. These are garbage rules.
They got you listed
So
for
listen,
10 with
you don't have
sneaks
to
on.
like it, just like we didn't like that Maddox rule. We didn't like it. You don't have to like it. I'm just letting you guys know
These
that
are
a
garbage
lot of
rules.
women think like that. Like when I was younger, it was like I wouldn't even look at you if you were shorter than me.
Right.
Now it's like I would prefer you to be my height or a little taller with heels, but I'm not as like gung ho about it as when I was like
Would
18.
you date someone shorter?
You would date somebody's shorter.
If they had like all the amazing qualities.
Kevin Hart is shorter than his wife,
If they had, if
she's
they
in
had all
heels.
these
Well,
amazing
millionaires.
qualities,
Good
if,
for her.
If they had all these amazing qualities, then like I'm not going to be like, oh, you're like
All right,
one inch
what's
shorter.
the petty reason where
No,
if there
you're
were a-
next. You're next. Don't try to put this
All right.
on me.
I would think employment would be the biggest thing. Like,
That's not petty though.
like,
That's
believe-
not- that's a
like,
real-
like, I
That's a
couldn't-
real
Like I couldn't date
That's
a no,
not
but I mean
petty.
I could date a homeless woman. I just couldn't date a cop.
A cop.
It just wouldn't work out.
What do you have problems with cops?
You would date
No,
a
I don't have any
homeless
problems.
woman.
I know a
with
lot of
police.
good cops.
It's-
Like,
I don't have any problems with police.
but why don't you?
I just don't think that the
lifestyles.
So you're doing
wouldn't-
shady things that you don't want the police to find out about it. You don't want to put her in a bad position, so you rather date someone who's homeless.
Why do you assume that? Okay.
You would
That's
date the
essentially
homeless.
what you said.
Okay.
Well, you have to give them credit for dating the homeless, though. I mean, you receive credit for that.
Oh, I mean, I should.
Why not a cop?
I'm proud of you.
I just don't think that the lifestyles would work. I feel like I'd
Exactly what I
have to
said.
be under a microscope a lot. You know.
So does that mean you do a lot of illegal stuff?
No, that's the point of it. Is that I feel like I would be assumed. Crystal.
Why would you be
Crystal,
But if you're
assumed,
dating a
though?
cop and they know your lifestyle and you're
What?
not doing anything
Why would you
illegal,
be
then why is
assumed?
that a problem?
that's like being like, you know, hey, get stopped and frisked. You don't have anything on you.
There's-
Like, no, I
there's
don't want my
truth
life
at the
intruded
end
like
of-
that.
of
What you
most
talking
rumors.
about?
I think it's different when you're
Well, if
dating
you don't,
them.
what are you talking about? They're not coming home frisking you.
No, but they're in my ass about shit.
That's every woman.
Right.
That's
Are
part
you
of being in a
talking from
relationship.
experience of dating a cop?
No, but I know close friends who have.
So you're going to put everyone in a cop
Every cop
box
is
because
different.
you have
Wait
one
a
friend who
second,
dated
wait
a
a second.
cop.
Hold on.
And
The
it didn't
question,
work out for him.
You asked me a question. I'm honest, and now I'm wrong for being honest.
Yeah, we don't want you to be
Okay,
honest.
well,
Y'all thought
Ryan,
that
your
Roxy
turn.
was wrong for
That's
being
why.
honest.
That's why I'm not
Roxy
going to
was
Ryan,
first
your
anymore.
turn.
I don't think this is
Jeez.
even petty. I just think this is just a preference of mine that.
Deep breath.
All right. I mean, and this is minor, but it's just kind of one of my pet peeves. If you don't get your toes done like on a regular basis, and you have like chipping paint, I would just rather you say
No,
no,
that's
paint,
petty.
I don't think
no
that's-
paint at all.
I think that's
Chip
kind
no
of
paint.
Don't wear chip paint.
I feel like
I'm
that's the
off.
same kind of rule as with the women with our heels. Like we
No, I
don't.
think that's
No,
we
this
don't
is
think
a
that's
real.
pettier.
This is a
I
real
feel like
rule.
I feel like a lot of guys feel the same way.
No, you know what this means? First of all, you can't control your height. You can control, Roxy, us 6 and under. A lot of you guys out here are. How tall are you?
6 foot when I'm up.
Sure.
Hey,
5'11".
Hold on. This coming from the guys going on his NFL
I'm
listing
5'10".
at 5'10".
I'm 5'10", anyway.
Yeah, the doc ain't got you at 5'10".
My point is, you can control whether your toes are chipped,
Not
your
if you're
fingernails.
broke.
Well, no, I'm not saying. Listen,
Hey.
I'm not saying you have to have.
I
You don't
think-
have to have your nails painted, but they can't have half the paint on there and half the paint
Like
off.
there was
chip,
no-
like
if there was
chipping.
no paint, it would be okay.
Yeah, I'm
he
okay with no paint.
He doesn't know, but he likes girls who has either acrylic or gel manicures because gel really doesn't chip like that,
I just
and they
don't
last for 2 weeks.
Yeah, if you don't have to have, like, you don't have paint on your nail, I'm cool with that. But if you have paint on them,
it's like
It's
chipping.
don't
neglect,
leave-
right?
yeah,
It's
don't-
the, it's
yeah.
the
And it's like
essence of
chipping.
Yeah, that means you
neglecting
don't
your
shave
feet.
your legs too.
Yeah.
That just kind of it throws me off.
Well, hold
You
on,
can
wait,
tell
wait,
so
wait.
much.
I'm
Oh my
willing-
If you
God.
don't do your lips, if you
All of a
don't
sudden
take care of your
shaving your
toes,
legs.
you definitely don't shave your
But
legs.
I'm willing
So
to
you can
bet.
tell everything about a girl if she has chipped nails on. If you can tell she doesn't shave her legs.
Yes.
She doesn't do certain things. She doesn't reach over the car door and unlock
Absolutely.
the door. She don't do that.
Oh
my God,
You
what
can tell
movie was
all
that
that by
from?
chipped nails.
I can tell every last one of those
yes.
things.
But why wouldn't the shaving of the legs be number one and the toenails be number two?
Because sometimes you can't see the legs initially, and you might be able to see the toes.
Okay.
They got heels on or something.
Or vice
You might be able
versa.
to see
this
the
goes
toes.
back to Roxy's thing, which is you may not get something in chronological order, but once you get something of more importance, guess what? That bumps it up to the top of the list.
Well, I mean, she has-
Meaning, hey, this conversation's great. You're 5 foot.
There are some women that say men prefer them having furry legs.
Oh, I'm not knocking.
never
I'm
heard
not
that.
knocking women.
I've heard this
I've never
before.
heard
I'm
They
not
said they
knocking a wo-
prefer it.
No,
This
listen,
is
I'm
like
not
a
knocking a
weird
woman for
fetish
doing
I've
it. I'm
never
saying
heard.
if it was Brian, like if your pettiness
Yeah.
comes from the toes, and then you're like, oh, she don't shave her legs. I'm thinking, well, that should be ahead of.
No.
Okay,
And the toes first, and then
Okay.
as you work your way up, you be like, oh, well, she don't shave her legs either. This is going down here, probably her armpits. I don't know what else. What else
Speaking
she
of going
may not do.
downhill, this is where we're going right now.
No, we
at
have to
a
get
rapid
Roxy.
pace. Oh,
I mean,
no,
Oh
Crystal.
man, I thought y'all skipped over me. I was like silent.
Oh,
That's
I
right.
thought yours was the same as mine.
No,
No.
no, we
okay.
can't
No
allow
one
a
is
double.
petty
or-
as that.
But
I
so-
really
but what if it
This
was
is
the
a
same?
physical
Okay, fine.
feature that you're.
I really honestly
So
thought y'all
wrong.
were about to skip me and I was so happy.
nope.
All right, so I honestly don't think I'm as petty, but I'm like, first of all, it takes a lot for me to like anyone. So there's that.
That means you're petty.
Yep.
That doesn't mean I'm
that
petty.
means you're petty.
That
That
does
means-
no, because
Your standards are
I
petty.
don't know. I don't
Nope.
look at like materialistic things like most people do. I look at like the person. Like we had a conversation before, like, oh, you wouldn't date him if he was a waiter. No, that's not the case. I'm looking at you like
What if he was homeless?
as a person.
Yeah.
Because then no.
That's just ridiculous.
So, but what's the
I was
Okay,
using it
so-
as
What's
a
the thing?
comparison.
But you know you wouldn't.
See, but it's hard for me because
Hey.
I don't feel like I'm that petty anymore. Back in the day, I was like super petty.
Right.
But I feel like if you are like kind of have like a soft backbone or don't are
that's
not
real
opinionated, like I couldn't really because I like to hold conversations. Like I'm a journalist, I
Yeah.
like to talk. So if you don't have any opinions on religion, on politics, on current events, on pop culture, if you're just like, oh yeah, okay, that's cool.
That's not petty.
Which I've talked to people and it's just so boring to me. They could be like the best person, but to me it's just like, all right, bye. Like
That's not petty. Though.
exactly. I
Well,
can't think of
just
anything
take
else
her
that's like
height thing.
really.
I'm sure you have way
petty.
more pettier things than that.
All right, do me a favor. Put the blindfold on.
Okay.
No, man.
Yes.
So
I don't wanna be a part of
Cody,
this.
Cody Parkey,
Yeah. We
he
gonna
has
make
his
you
number
Cody
one
Parkey.
meme on Twitter, on
Yes.
Instagram, because he missed the field goal. He had the Sandra Bullock Bird Box. We asked you guys to watch Bird Box. Someone did not.
But he
I
can
didn't watch
see.
it. That ain't happening.
You didn't watch it.
Hell no, that movie's
Listen,
trash.
Why
Guys, you
would
have
you
another
watch
one?
it?
It's garbage.
Oh,
too.
you didn't watch.
It's
you didn't,
garbage.
So who gets blindfolded then?
Brian, he's the starter. It's for the record Philadelphia with Brian Westbrook, not
confused.
18
You know,
Chandler.
But what's the point of this? That's my question.
If you watched the movie, you would have known.
So we're trying to prevent you from the evils of social media.
I'm confused.
That's what the movie's
Crystal
about.
is one of the worst tires in the world.
well, this is a leather belt.
Yeah, have you never
so.
tied a belt around somebody's head before?
Right.
Come on, Crystal.
Now what are we doing?
Now you
Now
have to
that I
get up and
can't
walk
see
around.
anything.
No,
All right,
no,
now-
Exactly.
now-
we're
I
not
gotta
going to
walk
have you
around.
actually do the bird because we're not insured up here, so we can't have you do the bird box
It
challenge.
feels kind of good not being able to see you guys. Though. I mean, it actually feels good.
But you
Nice.
know, someone
This is
made
what's
a
happening
funny
right
I
now.
can't see how
comment
tall
earlier.
people are.
You can't judge them.
Right,
You
I can't
also
just
can't
see
see
their
their
toes.
fingernails.
That's right. But this is what's going on now is that
It's outta
Netflix
here.
actually had to issue an apology. Come on, man. You can do at least
All right,
this.
you can
this-
tire yourself.
All right, go ahead.
Netflix had to issue an apology or a warning.
A warning,
A
yeah.
quasi apology, basically a warning.
what?
Because people, listen, I'm telling you, I know teachers that are dealing with this in their 6th, 7th, 8th grade classes. You got 10, 11, 12-year-old kids who are putting on a blindfold and just walking into
Doing
stuff.
challenges.
Like,
It's called
oh,
the
you
Bird
can't-
Box
right.
Challenge.
So the whole entire movie, well, most of the
If you
movie,
would've
Sandra
watched
Bullock
it-
and her kids were wearing blindfolds.
You're still not off
because.
this.
Sorry if you did not watch this.
No, spoil the hell out of
so
it.
basically,
Hell
there's
yeah.
like this thing that exists, and if you look at it if you look at it, it ends up causing you to kill yourself.
What?
Yeah,
so
it's a bad
in the
horror
movie,
movie.
in the movie, they walk around with blindfolds.
Right.
Trying to live, trying to survive. And so people started doing the Bird Box Challenge where they were walking around with blindfolds, trying to do their everyday things. And they were, of course, posting the videos up. I didn't really see a lot of the videos. I just remember one where this father had his baby walking around with a blindfold and the baby walked
that's
right
not
into
cool.
a wall.
That's
Yeah,
not
it's
cool.
ridiculous.
Wow.
People love challenges.
But
It's
they're-
all the chip challenge.
Yes.
It's all the ice button. People just want to be challenged.
Well,
Like that's what people want to do.
Cool, learn something new. Be a challenge.
There's a
in
better
2019. Read a book.
Right.
right, you don't need it. But this is what's wrong with people is that they see something on a show or a movie. Do you remember the program, The Program,
Yeah,
back
yeah.
with James Caan? So there was this old movie.
Oh, James Caan. I used to
The
work
football
with him.
movie,
Did you
right.
really?
I did a movie with him in Canada.
What movie?
It's called Sicilian Vampire.
Anything that popped out of that movie you could tell? Anybody go crazy on set or anybody do something
The
stupid?
director was kind of crazy. I have I don't think I could like say it too much or I would get in trouble, but he was like the director, the star of everything. It was just very different because, you know, I'm coming from Hollywood and
Right.
LA where I've been around all this stuff.
Oh yeah, you're Hollywood.
Right.
I'm not Hollywood. I'm not Hollywood. I'm from here. Thank you very much. If anyone needs to know, I am from not from the 215. I'm from South Jersey, but all my family's from here. Everyone's just screaming on set and going crazy, and it's supposed to be like this Italian movie, and James Caan is actually Jewish, but he's like the only Jewish person there. So we're on like this stretch limo with Robert Davi and having like 5 bottles of what's Dom Perignon,
Yeah,
and
DP,
everyone's
yeah.
ordering steak, and they're telling us their craziest.
You were in the movie?
No, I was working
you were
behind the
helping.
scenes.
Oh, okay,
I was working
okay,
behind the
okay,
scenes.
That's wild.
Yeah,
That's a
so
crazy movie.
James Caan. I don't know the movie you're referring to.
The program is the old movie.
Okay, so the program,
Yeah,
real quick.
I do not know that movie.
The program was famous for two things. One, because it was like one of the first real movies about college football and the pros and cons of it, and they really went into like some scandals and things like that. It was also cool because it had a great sense of realism. All the shots of practice and games, like you watch it in the theater. This is probably what, I'm 40, so
Had to be like early 90s
15,
maybe.
16.
40?
Yeah, no, just
Could have swore you were 22.
I know, right? So the point of it is that there was this scene that actually got cut out of the movie because I saw it in the theater, so I remember this scene explicitly, but a lot of people on DVD did not catch
They didn't
it.
see it, that's right.
There was this, they were in college, so it was this like hazing moment. All right, we're gonna get all these young kids, all the rookies, all the freshmen, and they had them lay down in the middle of the street in traffic. So does Hollywood. Start, stop, all right, you lay there, we control the car, and you had all these people, and then there was this shot, people screaming because the
Right.
traffic. So what did people do the next day?
Oh no.
They
went-
started
my
doing it.
God.
Yeah.
Are
So
you
this,
kidding?
so challenges aren't new
People
to this
love
generation.
challenges. Love
That's
challenges.
what
Right.
the moral of the story is.
Yes.
It goes back to your generation.
Listen, people have been
love
stupid since the Adam and
Forever.
Eve or
But what's so
evolution or whatever
funny-
you want to call
There
it.
you go.
What's so funny about this challenge is that why don't you just close your eyes?
As
Instead
he
of
was a
having putting the
blindfold
blind, where are you guys at? Why don't you just close your eyes instead of putting the blindfold on? Well, why do I have to have this movie?
because you did not
Get this
watch
thing out of
the
here.
You can take it out. You
I
can
can't
take
even see or take this leather belt off. My forehead is sweating.
it. Let me ask you an honest question, because I think this is hilarious, and I almost want to keep talking about this for another 20 minutes just to see Brian. in
This
a
crazy thing.
blindfold.
Like,
Do you think we can legit compartmentalize everything that's happened over the weekend and on social media in 12 minutes, which I believe we can?
It's
With
going to be
R. Kelly.
hard. It's going to be hard.
Let's start.
because this could be Bird Box or an R.
Right.
Kelly artifact.
right. Roxy knows the most about it.
What was your first takeaway now that everything's out? And knowing what's, and also too, this is not a new story, which for me, that was my first reaction was, hey, okay, hey, where y'all been? But what was yours?
Yeah, but there's a lot of stuff that came out in this documentary that I didn't know. I mean, and this is the first time that we're actually getting to hear from parents, and I think that was the most,
Like
that was
what
the
though?
hardest thing.
Like what? I mean, what type of thing? I haven't seen the last couple episodes.
Okay, I'm not trying to be all graphic, right? But I never saw the video.
The P video?
never
Yeah,
saw
I never
it.
saw
I
the
never
P
saw it
video, and I
either.
did not know he peed in the little girl's mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, ditto.
I did not know
I thought
that.
it was on her, and I didn't know it was a little girl. I thought it was
Yeah.
like a grown woman.
No.
I learned that it was a little girl.
Yeah, it was a little girl.
But isn't it, real quick, because I want to
sick.
get back to this, but isn't it amazing? You just talked about how, this is the connection. Crystal, you just brought up about how the Bird Box and the challenge is not new. Yet somehow it's being, this is new, idiot millennials. But for some reason, things happen, and it's not only that we forget, it's that it's buried. And then all of a sudden something comes back and it's like, wait, or,
You know what?
and it's not your fault, it's
Yeah.
just how things work. Just like it's not my fault for the next thing or your fault for the thing after that. It's just crazy how
So,
this is all working.
In our justice system, when someone's acquitted, they're acquitted. It's done. So he was acquitted in court. So in our minds, it's done. It's over. Everyone kind of gave him a pass for the Aaliyah thing because Aaliyah was more grown than she was, and she was
Well,
Aaliyah. She was like one of the
15
most
years old.
Yeah, but
gorgeous,
not everybody
gorgeous
did.
girls ever.
Lot of people
a lot
lo-
of people forgave,
Right.
right? But then the thing I think was really interesting, his brother said something. He is going to get the justice he deserves, and it might not be through the court system. And I think this documentary is the justice that he honestly deserves, because I'm going into this like, all right, I think I know what's going on. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I was mind blown by
Well,
this.
that's what you were saying as far as you didn't realize the specifics of a video, and then that comes
Well,
out in
and not
this.
just the video, it's just everything. I mean, like, a lot of the victims came out and spoke. A lot of the parents came out and spoke. I mean, you actually got to see this mother on her journey trying to get her daughter away from him. It
Because
followed
the daughter
her.
is still with him now.
Not anymore, but I mean, her daughter was with
like
him.
living
that,
with him,
that
yeah.
he made
An
look
underage
like
kid.
a
Like a little boy, yeah.
And,
Right.
and I know that someone said that he was
was the purpose
sexually
of that?
assaulted when he was a kid by a man, so maybe that was the reason why. But something else that really got me and rubbed me the wrong way, and if I could just speak to the black community for a second, we are a forgiving people. A lot of us are Christians and we believe in forgiveness, and we have forgiven R. Kelly because and they showed you this, people at the courthouse outside saying, no, they're just trying to bring him down. And it goes back to Emmett Till when like people could lie and just bring someone down automatically. So I understand why people did not want to believe it. But now that we have this story and we saw that he hollered at someone who was outside the courthouse, a little girl who he eventually...
Who was 14,
who I think 16 or something. He
She was
eventually
14,
drawed
I think, at the
in.
time.
Yeah, but
and then she was a virgin.
Right.
And then he's like, strip, take this off. And then she's like, listen, I'm a virgin. And he's like, good. That means I get to take your virginity.
Yeah, but
and this was
He's
a girl that
just
he met
Right.
outside of
He's a
his
sick
trial.
man.
But that's the point, is that this was, first off, this was not a communal acceptance. There were plenty of people. There's a great skit from the Boondocks back when this was going on as well.
I think they
Yep,
played it.
they showed
They
it.
aired it a little bit.
Good,
Yeah.
okay, which highlights that there were plenty of people who were frustrated with it, but there was an overwhelming vocal, I don't want to call it majority, minority, because I'm not here to differentiate percentages of who spoke out, but there was a vocal amount of people that were like, hey, to that point that you raised, which is a very valid point. But where I'm conflicted is, yes, there is a legit system right now that is at least accepting of somebody lying and setting somebody up way more based on their skin color than not. However, we can't wait for the next, all these signs for a documentary to pop 15 years later either.
Yep,
I don't think a lot of people understood how deep it actually went.
That's what it was.
I kind of got the whole abusing the kids, which I think he should have been in jail for a long time
How
ago.
much deeper does it need to get than abusing
But
kids?
now he's like taking kids from their parents and
Yeah.
they're
But that-
living with him. I mean, that sounds
That's
crazy.
what it showed in the documentary. First of all, this all, I think, kind of came up when he was in his prime.
Yeah.
R. Kelly had
It was.
so much money, it was disgusting. So he paid off so many people to keep this quiet. Then when it came to going to court, they delayed the trial by years and years and years and years, and they said it looks better to have a 21-year-old take the stand than a 14-year-old. So there was just so many things that they did in order to make him look better.
Right,
Yeah,
but there were still
I
people.
agree
there
with
were still
you.
people that were speaking up and
Yeah.
saying this is not a setup. This
Correct,
is,
but they
You know,
didn't have the
I-
money that R. Kelly had.
There
They
were
didn't
so
have
many
time.
people
Anytime,
that-
I
okay,
think-
but that doesn't excuse.
Of course it doesn't excuse
like there's
it.
this general acceptance of ignorance. Like
Yeah.
we just didn't know enough back then. You know,
Yeah.
now we do. And I'm
Anytime-
thinking like we kind of did.
I understand your point, and I almost agree with you. It's like we forgave the Aaliyah situation way too quickly. She lied, said she was 18, she was 15. We forgave it way too quickly. There were rumors, and I think that's one thing that got the community is that these are just rumors. They're not really true. I think what the documentary did is open our eyes, and for a lot of people, when they talked about this in the doc, and it's so hard to separate the person from the music because this is music that we fell in love with,
It
that
shouldn't
we
be hard,
that we
though.
loved. But then now it's so much easier to like stop listening to the music because we know who he is as a person. Before we're just going off of rumors and the one mistake.
Right.
But now that I think what the doc did was just bring everything, they did their research, brought everything together in one sitting for us to see how it went so
How
wrong.
did you feel watching it as a father?
Well, to me, I mean, before I even answer that, I mean, it shouldn't be hard. It's not hard for me to separate the music from the abuse. If you're an abuser, you won't be making music anymore. You'll be in jail.
Well,
I mean,
initially.
it's simple as that. Like, in my opinion, and even back then when I heard about it, I'm trying to think back because I was younger, 17, 18 years old, when all that went down, the video with the, urinating on the girl. And you're like, he's a sick dude, not realizing that it's a 14, 15-year-old at that point. But every adult, I mean, there were a lot of adults in that documentary, managers, mothers, parents that were handing their kids over to R. Kelly, and they knew kind of what was going on and did nothing because of dollars and cents. To me,
Michael
that's crazy. I mean, that's terrible parenting. There's parents that are saying, yeah, just go hang out with him for a couple days. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
My mother wasn't letting me out the house for no days. Spend a night where?
Right.
No, you have to spend a night here. I pay for mortgage here. This is where you stay at. You're my child. And so there was obviously R. Kelly did all of this, but there were a lot of opportunities for people to slow this thing down, to stop it completely, and they didn't do their job. And the same amount of people that are saying, well, on these documentaries now, he should have did this, he's a bad person. Well, you should have said something then. You had an opportunity. You knew what was going on. You brought your niece over there. You saw R. Kelly with 14, 15-year-olds. You were in the mall when he was booking these little young chicks.
And
it's you. You're a problem too.
Yeah, and that's
why he should go to jail, and so should you.
One person in the doc, I don't know if he's male or female, they had their whole body blurred out and their voice distorted, because I think that some people did feel that shame of like, yo, someone actually said like, I thought the girls were the problem. I should have been looking at R. Kelly and be like, yo, you're the problem, because he would help him out. So yeah, there was blame on every side. R. Kelly obviously having a problem. And then honestly, one of the biggest themes that I took away was like, who is talking to these girls? Who are talking to these young girls? Because I know one thing, my mom would talk to me all the time when I was a little girl, was not allowed to spend the night when I was really little. And she would talk to me about certain things like people who have a lot of money, guys who don't have a lot of money, they might want to use you. Who's talking to these girls in these low income areas where they can just be so easily manipulated by someone who's famous? And that's something you have to really talk about to young girls, especially someone who can potentially offer you something.
And boys these days,
yeah,
so both.
And I'll just close it for me, and you know, as we wrap up, I'll say that this is a thing that we've seen before, where it's not been specific to your socioeconomic situation, where we've had rich parents have their children spend weeks at Neverland, or what the hell was it?
Neverland Ranch.
I really was.
Right. But that was what we had. And we had court cases and we had testimony. And you see these kids coming from anywhere from Orlando to Iowa to Portland, Maine to Dallas, Texas. And it's like this celebrity element. And you're right. When you get somebody who is lower on a socioeconomic food chain and you can prey off their desperation, then it's like adding a grow lamp to something, and like a chia pet, right? Where it just goes up overnight.
It's disgusting and sad, and the obviously the victims, you know, they deserve all the respect. But like I mentioned, there's so many people that failed these young kids, and for it to still be going on today, they're still failing them.
And I think
that's the saddest
if
part.
anything that we learn from this is that we need to talk to our girls more, not to be desperate for their careers, work hard, not to be desperate, and one of the tiniest things is that this is an extreme case of R. Kelly, but we can see little traces of, like you said, just everyday boys who might want to isolate you from your family or do small things that could lead to bigger things.
All right, so we go from Eagles to some not so serious stuff.
We got to get a win this week.
Yeah,
Eagles.
I was gonna say, like, could we end on, you know, like, can we just exhale for a second?
Like an Eagles chant. Yeah.
Who is going against the Eagles with the Saints right now? Who thinks we're going to lose? Everyone's silent.
I'm not
That's
betting
what I'm talking about.
I'm not betting against
y'all.
y'all, right?
That's why I love y'all. Don't
You're
bet
not
against
from New
Nick
York,
Foles.
but the New York came out.
People already owe me brunch because they were betting against Nick Foles against the Bears. That's why I love y'all.
All right, that's Crystal Rich, Roxy Romeo, Eitan Shaner, Brian Westbrook. It's For the Record, Philadelphia.